Hello everybody, Strategic Operative here. Today I'm going to be talking about the Thrawn Doctrine in Star Wars Armada and how to use the Thrawn Doctrine within Star Wars Armada tabletop game. Now we did talk about the Tarkin Doctrine a little bit in our last video, looking at different doctrines for Star Wars Armada and different strategies, and we've come to the realization that the Tarkin Doctrine is not fully complete and compatible thus far for Star Wars Armada as of right now. We still have the SSD coming out, which is still really going to help the Tarkin Doctrine move a step forward. However, there are still some elements missing to the game to fully adopt the Tarkin Doctrine. However, looking at the Thrawn Doctrine, Thrawn War Doctrine, we come to realize that actually the game is well-versed and actually really set for an Imperial player using the Thrawn Doctrine, and we're going to dive right into that today, what the Thrawn Doctrine entails for Star Wars Armada. Now, number one you want to realize for Thrawn is that he's meant to be a second player. When I talk about the Thrawn Doctrine, you don't have to be using the Commander Thrawn, though he actually is a really good choice in this case for the Thrawn Doctrine. Thrawn, you want to be a second player. You want to run up to 400 points or choose to be second player because Thrawn reacts to his enemies. He lets his enemies sort of, pretty much in the beginning of the game, you can tell by the enemy's fleet and setup what their objective in the game is. If they're going to follow the objectives that you have set out, or if they're just coming to just destroy you. Tells you if they're going to try doing, a pincer attack, if they're going to be running across the board, hugging the sides, trying to do an Akbar slash, anything like that. All these key elements you're going to find in the first 2 rounds of the game. And that's a critical element time to sort of stay back, try to be second player, and watch your enemy try to open up their plan to you so you can respond. And usually, a benefit to second player is because setup is so hard from a strategic standpoint that the first player sometimes can screw up their plan as first player, and the second player can catch it before the first player realizes what is going on. That's a huge benefit of going second. Of course, you won't be able to attack first. You can activate your squadrons first, which is going to be really good in Thrawn's case because Thrawn does rely on squadrons. So, secondarily, you want to look at that you're a multi-role purpose fleet. Your goal is to be the complete opposite and the pretty much be the weakness of your opponent's fleet. Now, I'm not talking about just having a multi-role fleet across the board. That's not it. You want to have some variance within your fleet. You want to have, if you want to run a Quasar that's just for as a carrier, that's great. Quasars aren't good for anything else besides carrying. Just like you want to look at the interdictor. The interdictor is good for interdiction technology, not as a gunboat. Could be a commander, have a commander lifeboat if you need be, but you typically don't want to make that a bigger target as it's already a target presence in the game. The best ship that Thrawn uses for pretty much your multi-role vessel is going to be your Architans. Your Architans are really good escorts. They're really good if you're trying to throw a pincer. Also, they're really good overall just covering weak points in your fleet. If you're afraid that your gunboat's going to get shot or it has some weakness over here, you throw an Architan there, and chances are your enemy is not going to go for it. Architans are really powerful. They're multi-role vessels in the fleet. Even their even their ship upgrade titles are really good. One deals directly with squads. And then the other one does with boosting other fleets. They're getting a command token. They're getting a token back that they previously exhausted while defending. It really is a multi-purpose vessel, and it works really well, especially in groups of 2, 3. If you're going to do larger games, you can even just run a whole list of Architans, which is a really powerful list. But that's besides the point. I'm not looking at it from a fleet building perspective. I'm just looking at the overall doctrine of Thrawn. So when you look back, you want to have a multi-role purpose fleet that is aimed to become the opposite of the weakness of your opponent's fleet. And that's easily accountable and manageable through the use of multi-role vessel ships, like the Architans. Raiders are an okay one. They're a step down below an Architan, but they are a little bit cheaper. They only run 44 points versus your 56 and 59 point Architans. That is something to keep in mind. Also, you want to go with smaller ships. You don't want to run it. You can run an ISD, but typically speaking, if you're running from a Thrawn Doctrine perspective, you want to go with cheaper ships because you can hold more of them. It's more dice output, it's more maneuverability, it's more cover points that you can have on the board, and it's more ships overall that you have on the board that you can outmaneuver and actually turn and outpass your opponent just in ships, how many numbers of ships you have, and squadrons. Stepping aside from ships, you want to look at squadrons. Now, Thrawn's doctrine with squadrons is if you're going to do it, make them efficient, and pretty much don't just use them as flanks. Actually, use them to do damage. If you're going to get a squadron, get a really good one. Defenders are really good squads. They're 16 points each, and they roll four dicing in squads. It's 2 blue, 2 black, and it rolls, I think, a black and a blue against ships. It's a really good, actually, once again, a multi-role purpose bomber in the game. And those are relatively cheap when you want to look at squadrons. If you were to compare something like that to a Rebel variant, you find that the Rebel variant's actually anywhere from 18 to 24 points. So the TIE Defender is a really good option when looking at the Thrawn doctrine. Also, you can look at, that's a multi-role purpose, you can look at specific role purpose ships. You can look at TIE Phantoms, which are really good, just anti-squadron. You can look at other variances of squads as well. Just make sure that you have some flexibility to, once again, be the weakness of your opponent's fleet. You totally just want to cripple them in their fleet because you're running what just happens to be, or you're playing the style that just happens to crush the opponent. So you want to keep that in mind. You don't want to have everything strictly strategized and just made for one objective in the game. That is a really good option in the game, and if you play that way, you probably don't want to play the Thrawn doctrine, because the Thrawn doctrine is having pretty much your plans and your strategy is going to change based on what the opponent does. Round to round and turn to turn, back and forth ship. In the middle of your round, you might have to flip your strategy completely because you realize your opponent has just opened up a weakness or they're trying to come around a certain way. That's what the Thrawn doctrine does. The Thrawn, it pretty much puts all of the power to your opponent. You watch them, and then you react accordingly. Hopefully, number one, they'll screw up. If not, hopefully try to learn what your opponent's fleet, what their weakness is going to be. And you try to plan your fleet accordingly. Like I said, are really good. That's why you have a lot of multi-role vessels in your fleet, just to sort of help cover those roles. I think Architans are a great one. Raiders are a close second, but I still would use an Architan almost 9 out of 10 times, depending on what the situation is. But still, if you want to use, if you want to base your fleet off of interdiction technologies, if you want to do that perspective, absolutely run an interdictor. If you want to run, if you want to run squadron balls, then by all means use quasars. Just try to have some flexibility in your fleet, knowing that your plan might not be the most important thing on the board. You want to try countering the opponents with whatever the complete opposite of their fleet is. I hope this helps you a little bit to see where the Thrawn doctrine comes from. Where the Thrawn doctrine comes from. I want to say Tarkin so bad. Forgive me for that. But let me know what you guys think. If this is accurate according to the Thrawn doctrine. I'm a huge Thrawn fan. I've loved Thrawn even before the Rebel series. Way back when Timothy Zahn first started writing about the Thrawn and the Chiss, and overall, I love the whole backstory of Thrawn. I love his ideology. Sadly, I don't think like his ideology in the game of Armada thus much. I really do try to use his strategies as much as possible, but I fall under the category of Tarkin Doctrine. But y'all let me know what you all think of this video.